How do you handle the "how much do you charge" question? Or if negotiating a package, what are your OTE expectations? Find out the power of ranges in this tip from Chris Voss in his book, Never Split the Difference. Welcome to the Bite Size Sales Podcast, where we believe that sales is the most important team in a B2B company, that the sales team deserves great sales skills training but usually doesn't get it, and that taking bite-sized steps each day to get better at your craft is the best way to improve results. I am your host, Andrew Monahan, and I'm using my experiences in B2B sales to bring you simple, actionable ideas every day to help you get better. If you've been in sales for any length of time, you'll know that the general wisdom is, don't give a price too early. You don't understand what the problems are. You don't understand what they're trying to achieve, their goals are. You haven't established any value in your solution. So how can you possibly just throw out a price when all it's going to do is hurt you? But it can be weird just not answering the question. Sometimes in early stage calls, discovery calls, they throw out there, well, how much do you charge for this? And just blanking it or doing some sales ninja stuff not to answer the question and fob them off can sometimes actually frustrate the prospect a little bit. You know what you probably are going to charge right within the ballpark. And you want to make sure that you're on the same page as them. You want to make sure that you're even in the same book, never mind the same page. You've both got time to waste if you end up working on the wrong opportunities. When I say both, I mean the prospect and you. You as a salesperson want to know whether it's worth working on. They want to know whether it's worth allocating resources to work on this. I'm not a big fan of just ignoring it or working your way around it. If I look back, the few times where I have thrown out a price early on or an indication of price early on, is when and it's actually killed a deal, is when it's been a huge disparity with what the prospect thought they wanted to pay and what our proposal was going to come in at. Literally looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million+ to implement what we have, and the prospect, for whatever reason, is thinking this is a 2-week-long $50K project. Right. And it's okay to find that early that there's that huge difference, because you can either walk away or you can react and kind of, play a little bit dumb and say, yeah, you must be missing something. Right. And this translates into compensation negotiations as well. If you've ever been through that dance early on in discussions with recruiters or with companies, you know that you get the question about what's your expectations for OTE. You'll probably throw back the, well, I haven't thought about it. What ranges are you paying for this role? And you kind of do that dance, and it all feels somewhat awkward. And Chris Voss, who is the ex-FBI hostage negotiator, talks a little bit about this in Never Split the Difference. And the example he uses, and I'll tee this up a little bit, is a compensation negotiation. He's already told the story of a guy called Jerry who threw out early on a low number and found out afterwards he was getting paid less than the others. So that was the kind of tee up to this quote that I'm going to read out. So from the book, he calls the section "Establish a Range." While going first rarely helps, there is one way to seem to make an offer and bend the reality in the process. That is by alluding to a range. What I mean is this: when confronted with naming your terms or price, counter by recalling a similar deal which establishes your ballpark, albeit the best possible ballpark you wish to be in. Instead of saying, I'm worth $110,000, Jerry might have said, at top places like this company, people in this job get between $130K and $170K. That gets your point across without moving the other party into a defensive position, and it gets them thinking at higher levels. Research shows that people who hear extreme anchors unconsciously adjust their expectations in the direction of the opening number. Many even go directly to their price limit. If Jerry had given this range, the firm probably would have offered $130K because it looks so cheap next to $170K. In a recent study, Columbia Business School psychologists found that job applicants who named a range received significantly higher overall salaries than those that offered a number, especially if their range was a bolstering range in which the low number in the range was what they actually wanted. Understand, if you offer a range, and it's a good idea to do so, expect them to come in at the low end. So this tells me that we need to use ranges to our advantage because the research is in your favor if you do it. But make sure that the low end of the range that you're throwing out is at the high end of what you expect, because you might throw out a range from 100 to 150. In reality, what the prospect or the person you're negotiating with is they're going to zero in on that 100 range because that's where they'll come back. So for an example, be ready with a phrase that I've heard people use. Well, look, at a company like yours, it can really depend on a number of different factors, but similar projects at similar sized companies have been paying in the region of $750 to $950K, right? And you throw out the range. So you use similar sized companies, similar projects, a lot to understand before we really nail this down, but I would expect something in the range of this. And that gets the discussion going. It gets the anchoring going, especially if you know that your range is perhaps a little bit high and therefore you're trying to pull up their anchor a little bit. Or for compensation, if you're having those discussions, you could say that, I would expect a sales role like this at a company this size in this market to have an OTE between 275 and 300K. Something like that might be the way you handle that range discussion. So the action from this is, if you're uncomfortable and you dodge the question and you do everything but feel good about how you're handling it, this is your chance to change your habit. When you hear the question, how much is this going to cost me? Instead of just throwing out the answer that you do now or the way you handle it right now, throw back the range, and that will get the discussion moving forward. If you like this episode, please share it wide and far. Spread the word. I get energy from seeing people download and use this content, so please just take 20 seconds to share it with anyone you think would like it too. This episode is sponsored by Unstoppable.do. Most sales teams are not trained effectively in the skills and mindset they deserve, and these are the most important people in the company. It's no wonder that only about 50% of reps make quota every year. Unstoppable is a service that helps sellers and leaders get great at the skills and mindset they need without taking time out of the field. It exists because if the sales team has the right skills and mindset, they thrive. They are confident and they perform much better. Find out more and even get a free sales book at bitesizesales.com. And now to wrap up. As Craig Parrish, VP Global Sales Development at CrowdStrike, may or may not have once said, training without implementation is just entertainment. And pretty poor entertainment when Monahan does it. So make sure you take action on what you learn and keep getting better every day. This world does not need more sales BS, so don't create any more. Be great at the fundamentals, be honest, be real, be yourself, just do not BS. And finally, I'm signing off as the great Joe Sexton would by saying, gone to sell.